Everybody, it's D. Rob and Kat. Welcome to 7 Minutes in Heaven, where we help you become the couple you've always wanted to be in 7 minutes or less. Today we're talking about the B word. That's right, budgeting. It's very scary. And how you actually become a couple that's on the same page in your finances. It's not an easy thing to do, is it, Kat?
Not really, no.
No.
But it's worth it.
It is worth it. And we had this actually question from a listener or a follower, and it's like, how do I get on the same page as my spouse with budgeting and finances? And it's a tricky thing. We were actually teaching the finance class last night at Harvest City Church. It was the first session, and if you actually want to go to that, we can probably get you in on the second session on this coming Tuesday, the 27th. But the homework that we gave to people, and I think this is a really smart thing to do, is to track 3 months of expenses.
Yeah, it's a really good idea to actually figure out, maybe it's for the first time ever, but where all your money went. So it's not just theory, it's not blaming your spouse on, oh, you bought a new hockey stick, that's where all of our money went, way to go.
I didn't buy a new hockey stick, for the record.
No, he did not. But it takes the guesswork out of it as much as possible, unless you're a couple that takes out huge wads of cash and then blows it in miscellaneous ways. That can happen. But for the most part, people swipe a credit card. So you should be able to go back and track at least 3 months of expenses. That's the first step we recommend to get a real good look with hard data. Where did money go?
Yeah, it's really hard to actually make a decision and get on the same page in your finances when you don't know where you're actually at. So if you actually track your expenses, what you're going to find is you're going to be like, okay, are we spending way less than we make? So, oh, good, we actually have some margin here to work with, so we can do some saving or spend some money on some fun stuff like hockey sticks. Are we spending just the right amount? So we're just like, it's a good budget here, or are we like way overspending and we're going backwards? Mm-hmm. And so until you kind of know where you're at, I wouldn't even recommend having a really serious discussion about this yet, trying to make decisions, because you're not going to know where you're just going to kind of like blame each other for certain things, and it's just going to be this one-off ad hoc stuff, and you don't have anything concrete that you can work towards. So that's kind of the first step, is track your expenses, and we'll put a link in the description here of a budget that we use through Dave Ramsey, or a budget template that we use through Dave Ramsey. You can track your expenses, go into your online banking. Everyone's got that nowadays. It's pretty simple to do, and it will make a world of difference to getting you going. But then after that, it's like, okay, we tracked our expenses. Now how do we have the discussion? So What would you recommend there, Kat?
Having a lot of grace with each other would be my first recommendation. Try not to have too many elevated conversations, but just have a lot of grace, a lot of openness about it. And then you can make a plan of like, okay, so we are way overspending, let's say. We need to cut back in certain areas. What are some of the areas that you could give up some ground in, that I could give up some ground in? And then you start to design what we like to call micro goals and macro goals. So some of your micro goals might be, okay, let's stop the bleeding. First of all, we're way overspending, so we need to, make some hard decisions, make some cuts right away. But then maybe it's, okay, we aren't overspending now, but we need to save a little more. We need to pay down debt a little bit, and those become your short-term goals.
Mm-hmm. And just as an example for us is like when we were first kind of getting into budgeting and actually talking about our finances in a more serious manner. First thing we wanted to do is actually get on a budget, so we knew where our money was going. That was huge, so we did that. And then after that, it's like, okay, let's get out of some of the debt that we're in. So we had some debt to our parents. We had a credit line that was hanging around that we were using to pay off our Visa and different things. Not a good scene. And so we did that. Got out of all of our debt in a very short period of time. And then after that, it's like, we want to have this big emergency fund. That's one of the baby steps that Ramsey recommends, is to having 3 to 6 months saved up in the bank. And so we ended up doing that, and we recently completed that. And so now our next micro goal is to have actually a big pot of money that we can use for investment and business opportunities, because we're fairly entrepreneurial. So we basically have a pot of money that when we see an opportunity, we're actually able to jump on it, because you need money to actually invest and take risk nowadays, but we want to have a safety net. We don't want to borrow money to do that. So that's great. So that's kind of the micro goals, but we have great macro goals too. And Kat's maybe more articulate on our macro goals than that.
Some of our macro goals are the same, and some of them are a little bit different, but that's okay because we agree on the same vision. I've always had a dream of being a philanthropist, to be honest. I want to be in a financial position where I can, cut a check for 10 grand and feel great about doing it, not even needing to think twice about what kind of dent that's making in our bank account, just because, someone's doing a great work either locally or abroad, and here you go. Take money, do good things in the world. And that's just one of my dreams. And another dream that we have together is we want to be able to change our family tree and instill principles in our children that are strong and biblically aligned, and that includes finances. The Bible says that a wise man leaves an inheritance to his children and his children's children. And something about that just motivates me.
Yeah.
And I know it's a huge motivating factor for Derek as well.
Yeah, I want to be an example to our kids, right? I want to be able to have our kids look up at us as good stewards of the finances and the wealth that we've been entrusted to, and that we've used that for something meaningful. So obviously giving away a lot of money and doing that sort of thing, but also having the ability to leave an inheritance to them, to have resources to support them in whatever they want to do. And also being able to have some fun and not feel guilty about it because you actually have a budget, that you have a plan to spend money on fun stuff. And that's some of the things, micro goals, that sometimes we forget about and that are actually really motivating. And we talked about this again at the finance class last night. One of our friends, Matt Glover, actually, one of his goals was to buy a new car. That was his macro goal. And people last night were talking about, so many spiritual goals and some of these like fluffy things that we're talking about right now, because that's what drives us. But sometimes what can drive you is like a new car, a vacation. For me, it was actually a backyard ice rink that I've ordered recently, and it cost a lot of money. But we saved up for it, and it was a cool thing that kind of encouraged me to buy. And
you do need to reward yourself along the way, because this is the long-term game, and you have micro goals, and we encourage people when you hit those goals to treat yourself, because you did a good work. You're being countercultural in the way that you're thinking, the way that you're spending money and stewarding all of your resources. So good on you. Pat yourself on the back sometimes and buy those fun things. The Bible doesn't actually say you can't get yourself some nice things. It's just checking in with God, checking in with your spouse, making sure you have a vision and a plan overall. And that's really it. You don't have to feel guilty about those purchases when they're planned for and saved for.
Exactly. So track your expenses, and then once you do that, have some conversations about some fun micro goals and some smart micro goals, and then also your grand vision as a couple. Where do you really want to go?
That's right. But we are out of time.
We're out of time, and so that's your first step. And we hope that helped answer the question that we had. And if you have any other questions about money, we're going to be talking about money for the next little bit here. So let us know about some fun money questions. We love talking about this stuff. So anyways, have a great day. We'll see you later. I don't know why that.